Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being with us. This Week in America, Let Us Give Thanks by Robert Perkins is a collection of poems that call attention to everyday experiences that we go through without even thinking about them in many cases. Robert was born in Kentucky, moving to Springfield, Ohio when he was 4. He never thought of himself as a poet until a college writing experience. Well, since 1993, he's penned over 4,000 poems. Many are inspirational, including seasonal verse such as Christmas, Easter, a few stories in verse as well. Let us give thanks by our guest on This Week in America, Robert Perkins. Robert, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Looking forward to talking about the book, Let Us Give Thanks. And I mentioned poems of things that we come across every day. Sometimes we don't give them a lot of thought. And it's really interesting the spin you put on those. But I want to go back to talk about this experience in college. You were someone who not all that excited about being a poet, didn't think you could do it. And talk about the experience because you not only could do it, you've done it thousands of times.
Well, at the time, I didn't think I could. One of my friends, she saw me taking notes for a class, and she said, Robert, maybe you should write something for the competition that's coming up. I said, who, me? She said, well, you could at least write a poem. I said, I don't know how to rhyme 2 words. She said, well, give it a try. You never know. And I came in 3rd place.
And have been writing poems ever since. That really unleashed something in you, didn't it? And I have such admiration because I feel like you did back then. I can't do this whole rhyming and stanzas and all of this. What did that unleash in you? Because obviously it was there, and when they were able to bring this out, you've had a nice career doing it.
Yeah, I was in it for about 10 or 15 years, and then I just kind of, it faded away. And then, well, about the book, I noticed one year that retailers, of all things, they skipped from Halloween into the Christmas ads. And I thought, something's missing here. They don't even advertise Thanksgiving. So I said, let's see what I can do poetry-wise to see what we can be thankful for. And that's how the book got started.
You know, it's interesting because you've got so many things, again, that we sort of take for granted, where you talk about a number of things. You mentioned fire trucks, for example. We hear sirens, we see them flying by all the time, and really don't give a lot of thought to that. And you, in a short poem, pay attention to them and call them to our attention.
And, well, children, they're innocent enough. And they're beautiful, and people just seem to love kids.
And you talk about that. And the book is called Let Us Give Thanks. It's an easy read. It will give you a new appreciation for many of the topics you talk about in the book. You start by talking about God's Word, and that's sort of appropriate that you lead off with that to be thankful for. And again, in a couple of different stanzas, you're able to bring it into focus. And that's obviously important to you, God's Word, and that's sort of the basis where the gratitude, where the book came from.
That's the idea. I want people to stop and think.
How did you develop?
There's a lot to give thanks for.
Well, there is. There's one area where you're talking about the great outdoors, and as I'm reading that, you sort of take that for granted. You walk outside, and you don't even appreciate the majesty, the sights and the sounds and the colors and everything that you take in out there. And you read the poem in the book, Let Us Give Thanks, and you've got you walk outside now in a different way. You sort of look around and sort of take it all in. But we do take some of these things for granted, don't we?
Sure do.
How did you develop the poems, the themes? Because it's interesting, and we'll go through some of the different categories that you have. But how long did it take to put this list together for the book?
Oh, I just sat down and started thinking and wrote down some ideas. And they're not in any specific order. I just started, whatever came to mind.
And I would assume you must have observational skills that are pretty sharpened over the years. You don't look at you look at a tree and you see something different than I would. So you're part of the success in writing this book, I would think, would be the observation abilities that you have.
Well, and Then there's breathing. You know, I call it the breath of life. Now, I know we take that for granted.
Well, yes. I mean, it just
we just
happens.
breathe, we do our thing, and go about life on our own, so to speak.
One of the poems is giving tribute, giving thanks to our physicians, and for you that's personal because you had physicians and neurologists. You've been struggling with epileptic seizures for years,
Right.
and you really give thanks to this neurologist who adjusted medication and minimized this particular problem.
And my wife had MS. She passed away about 6 or 8 months ago, but she'd been struggling with MS for 30-some years. And if it wasn't for the doctors, she probably wouldn't have gone as long as she did.
One of the many poems in the book, Let Us Give Thanks. Our guest on the program is Robert Perkins. Information on the book available at bookventure.com, bookstore, the books at Amazon. You can link on directly to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. I mentioned the diversity of things that you're giving thanks for in the book that you call our attention to. One is a good night's rest, and I love that because this is sort of our escape or relaxation from the wild life we live, and we suddenly realize, boy, we need to be thankful for that, and we need to take advantage of it more often.
Yeah, it's just, well, the doctors say if you don't get a good night's rest, you're not good the next day. It kind of relaxes the brain, and it helps you recoup from what you've been through that day. So rest is important.
Talk about the process of putting these together. The book we're talking about is Let Us Give Thanks. You realize, use that as an example. You realize, boy, a good night's sleep really reinvigorates, rejuvenates. You feel much better the next day. Okay, now I've got to put this in a poetic form and make it something that people would be interested in reading and will get something from. How long does that take when you get the original idea to coming up with the hooks that you can put the poem together?
Oh, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to write a poem. It's not just something you just write down, 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Got to stop and think about it, and sometimes it's hard to rhyme those things.
Well, yeah, I would think it would take a while in rewrites and go back. Well, do you do a lot of rewrites where you write something and then you go back and okay, I can do better than that. I can come up with something a little bit better here.
I've done that. Like I said, the first time it just it's not as well. Nothing's perfect. I look at it and I think, no, I got to reword that.
Yeah, I'm sure as you're trying to get your good night's rest, suddenly you're realizing, okay, there's a different way I can approach that. You talk about holidays, and that's obviously one of the things that got you started on this journey with the book, Let Us Give Thanks. But Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, holidays are important, and some get overlooked and some get looked at for the wrong reasons, don't they?
Like Christmas. I mean, it's about the birth of Christ, but a lot of people say, oh, what do you want for Christmas this year?
Yeah, that's the first thing. When it's Christmas time, it's like, okay.
Where are we going to go to celebrate?
Yep. What kind of food are we going to have? And you better get me your Christmas list pretty soon so I've got time to go out and to buy everything. As I look through the book, Let Us Give Thanks, Robert Perkins, our guest on the program, you talk about tears, and you will talk about some of the categories, maybe not something you necessarily think about, but you talk about tears and being necessary to bringing healing for our pains.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you don't really...
Like when my wife passed away back in December, I'd seen her get worse over the years, and I couldn't shed the tears like I had. I'd seen her get worse and worse, and she'd been in a nursing home for 19 years. And when she did pass away, they just weren't there. I wanted to cry, but they just weren't there. So.
And that's one of the poems in Let Us Give Thanks. Robert Perkins, our guest on the program. And mistake, something else you talk about. This is not just, Thanksgiving and Christmas and things that you would think, okay, we need to give thanks for that. This is mistakes. And you're saying when you think about it, it makes there's so much truth to it. Most of our wisdom comes from mistakes. How do you come across that thought of, did you make a mistake and you learn from it and you're thinking, okay, this is something we need to give thanks for?
I think, well, we can do better. Let's erase that mistake and go back and try it again. And that's usually when we do better, is when we, I would say it's like a puzzle. If you don't get the piece right, you take that piece out and you look for another one to put it in its place.
Yep,
and finally you'll get the right one, and the puzzle goes together just right.
And it fits together, and the book it will really get you thinking and more appreciative of some of the things that we see around us. In the beginning of the book, you thank your sister. In fact, the book is dedicated to your sister. Talk about that, and she was the one that sort of spurred you to like, okay, you got these poems, how about putting them in a book?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had to be dedicating it to my wife now that she's passed on, but my sister suggested that I keep, see what I could do about putting them into a book, and it wasn't easy at first, but then as I went on and came up with this list of different things to be thankful for, I thought that I should dedicate it to her.
Yeah, what was that process like as you are writing the book? And it's always interesting that when someone puts something together, puts their blood, sweat, and tears into a project, and then when they finally get that project in their hands and they've got, wow, this book in its mind, what was that process like, writing the book and then getting a copy of it and knowing that this wisdom, this unique look, this thankful look at various aspects of our lives will be touching other people?
Well, back in '97, when I started writing these poems, I wasn't thinking about books. I was just thinking about, let's see what I can come up with to be thankful for. And then, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, that's when it started to take shape. And I had to come up with some more before they got published. So I went down the hall to our little sitting area here at my apartment building and took my notepad and just came up. I wrote about 3 poems a night for about a month until I finally got enough together. And that's when it all happened. But just like I said, at first there was no areas, like I had to do them in certain order.
Yes.
With like what do we give thanks for a sunny day or a pleasant day. Like you said, let's give thanks for heroes. That was different. But everybody has a hero. When I was growing up, it was Superman or Batman.
Exactly.
And little girls, they love their princesses, and little boys want to be a firefighter or maybe even a president. Never can tell.
It's interesting because you even do be thankful for, let us give thanks for flatware and dishes. Boy, something we take for granted. We just, put the food on a plate and we're ready to roll. And it's like, well, this came from somewhere. We need to be thankful for that.
I didn't put this in, but we need grocery stores.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
We'd be in bad shape without a grocery store.
Well, yeah, in fact, I'm sure in your life as you're traveling and thinking, it's like, okay, this would make a good poem. Are you working on a sequel to this?
Well, as I suggested in the introduction, I said, I know I haven't covered it all. There's no way. There's just 100 poems that got to do it. And I suggested that maybe if somebody could think of something else, they might send me a few ideas, and we might have a second volume.
Well, the first volume is excellent, and it's a quick read. It's entertaining. It will be thought-provoking. The book is Let Us Give Thanks. Robert Perkins, the author, and our guest on the program. You can link on directly to get information on the book by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. A couple minutes left in the program. As I'm reading this and the perspective you bring to all the different categories you're talking about here, you've got laughter and revivals and pains and the obvious that we talked about, pets that you talk about. What is this experience meant to you? Does it make you a more appreciative person because of writing the book?
I think so. Like I said, you suggested, be more attentive to what we have.
Yes.
And what was I said, technology and mechanics. Oh my, where would we be without them? Gotta have doctors.
Well, yeah, and you've got a let's be thankful for GPS, and you got a great spin on that in the book as well. What kind of response are you getting from friends and family, people who've read the book and appreciate your poems?
Well, you said something about, giving thanks for pets. One of the ladies at church, she wanted to know if she could help us dad in a little thing that she's got going. She has a pet service, like she pet sitting. And I said, sure, glad to let you use it. And I had a lot of response from my church friends, and I saw a few around the neighborhood. A lot of positive responses.
Well, the book is really well done. A minute or so left in the program. We're talking with Robert Perkins. The book is Let Us Give Thanks. I mentioned all of the poems that you have written over the years. What do you look for in a poem? What in this, the theme is Let Us Give Thanks. Are there themes in all the other poems you've written, or are these just sort of spur of the moment? You see something and you're putting some words together.
Well, like I said, when I first started, there's no certain theme. I just wrote down a list of things to be thankful for, like friends. Where would we be without friends? It'd be kind of a boring world, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. School, did I write down school? I mean, I've written so many poems. Gotta have friends, go to church. Here's a different one. How about giving thanks for death?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's in the book as well, and you talk about that.
I know. I know it sounds strange, but we do. We do. People who are terminally ill, like my wife, if they didn't experience death, they wouldn't go to the great beyond. Especially for those who are saved, I mean, they go to heaven, and there's no more death, no more sickness. Everything's happy and glad.
Well, the book is.
One of my friends, I said she's probably up there dancing and singing her little heart out.
I'm sure that she is, and very impressed with what you've been able to do with the book project. Let Us Give Thanks by Robert Perkins. The first of maybe several episodes in the. We may see a sequel, and in this, do you like travel around with a notepad and write these things down, or do you remember them and get back and write them down and go to work on them?
Well, due to my epilepsy, I don't drive. I have occasional seizures, and if you have one every 6 months, you can't drive. So I just walk around the neighborhood. I sit down at a coffee shop, try to take the notepad with me and write down ideas. And when I come home, the thing is, I kind of flesh them out, see what I can do, make them into a poem.
Well, and the poems are touching many, many people. I started this by talking about going to the outdoors, and all of a sudden, because of Robert's poem, you've got a new appreciation for the outdoors. You look around, and it's like not just getting from here to there. I've got to walk outdoors. You're looking around, and you're enjoying what you're seeing and smelling and experiencing outdoors. The book is Let Us Give Thanks. Robert Perkins, our guest on the program. Book is available at bookventure.com. You can find it at Amazon as well. Link on directly at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Robert, congratulations on the book. Really a job well done. It's an interesting book. You'll smile and you'll have all sorts of emotions as you read this, because it will make us appreciative for things that we take advantage of, take for granted in our everyday lives. Thank you for being with us on the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. Once again, it's Let Us Give Thanks. Robert Perkins, our guest on This Week in America. Book is available at Bookventure, Amazon. You can link on directly to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and get information on Robert's book. You're listening to This Week in America, and we're back right after these messages.